All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. My name is Brian Watson, faculty here at Embry-Riddle in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. But nobody came to listen to me. We came to listen to our panel of three students who are going to kind of give you a vision on what was their experience like, their different points in their journey, and we'll introduce them in a minute. At Embry-Riddle, our department has undergraduate degrees in electrical engineering, computer engineering, software engineering, computer science, and systems engineering. Obviously with an aviation focus and something we're very proud of. We're going to go ahead and quickly get into it here, but I do want to say, as the students present, and we're going to give them a few minutes to talk, and then we'll do some questions. So please put questions in the chat, put questions in the Q&A. I can ask them some questions at the end, but they get plenty of questions from me during the day, and so that's no fun. So before we get started, though, I think we have a video to pump us up. So we'll go ahead and play that. Awesome. All right, so tonight we've got three panelists. We've got Noah, Alex, and Cam. So Noah's an undergraduate, Alex is working on her PhD, and Cam's working on his master's, but everyone here has experienced undergraduate life at Embry-Riddle. So we'll start off, let's give Noah a brief introduction here. If we can go to the next slide, please. So Noah is pursuing a degree in software engineering, class of 27. I'm sure he'll talk about his research activities and his pathway internship. But Noah, yeah, the floor is yours. Love to hear about your experience here.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Watson. Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to kick this thing off with you guys, and thank you for taking the time to listen. I just want to talk a bit about my journey here at Embry-Riddle, and yeah, I'd just like to get into it. I will say just the top left picture was at Kennedy Space Center, and it was at my first semester here. I got invited on a tour down to go see the NASA facilities down there. And while I was down there, I was at that particular hangar, and went to the VAB, and I was standing there, and I was like, wouldn't it be incredible to be here working here one day? And I was just trying to envision that. So I just want to throw that out there real quick before we start. And so yeah, next slide, please. All right, so Embry-Riddle is pretty amazing in the fact that I was able to start research as a freshman. My second semester here, I met Dr. Watson. He invited me into his office, and we were able to talk, and he immediately started giving me mentorship and invited me to be part of his lab, which is the bid for R lab, which stands for Biologically Inspired Design for Resilience. We look at biology to increase resilience in engineering systems, and this is everything from swarm behavior to flocking behavior, and in which we can get into that more. But to keep it brief, we have developed this 50 unit robot swarm, which you see in the picture. I think we have 31 units there, and it's on the STARS platform, which is the Swarm Test Arena for Resilient Systems, and it's to test out bio-inspired algorithms. And I'm actually working on an algorithm right now. It's a Vishek model with sound inspired by echolocation. So it's incredible. And where I started at was working on a project called Engineering Thriving, and as a sophomore, I got to go to Montreal, Canada, and present our research that me and Dr. Watson and Dr. Gassoon worked on. You can see in that bottom picture there. And then, of course, it says mentorship, opportunities, and friendship. I will say that in that top left picture, there's so many amazing people in this lab, and I made friends with all of them, and we get to do stuff. That was a conservation workshop where we were restoring shorelines in the Indian River Lagoon system by making concrete molds out of oyster shells and concrete, of course. So yeah, it's the lab experience has been great. And again, I was brought on immediately when I started my journey here to do meaningful and impactful work. So and right now, like I said, I'm doing swarm algorithms and also doing reliability upgrades on the software side for the swarm. So all right, next slide, please. All right. So, fall of 24, Dr. Watson sent me an email or no, sorry, summer 24, Dr. Watson sent me an email and said, "Hey, you should consider applying for NASA Pathways." And I went for it. And fortunately enough, I got referred to three centers and I got an interview with Johnson Space Center. And during the interview, the thing that came up that I used to talk about a lot was the research I had done in the lab, and it was just an incredible experience. I got selected and I got to go to Johnson Space Center January of last year. I did two internships and I stayed out there till July of last year as well. So I did a spring and summer back to back while I was out there. The work was absolutely incredible. They immediately brought me into the team in my first internship, and I did flight controller tools for Artemis flight controllers. So telemetry displays for Orion, showing the array positions, what phase of flight it was in, where it was at in space relative, what satellite it was connected to, all these things. Immediately brought it to do some pretty awesome stuff. I was very grateful and humble. Um, and then my second internship was with the software engineering or spacecraft software engineering branch. And I got to work on flight software for the Orion spacecraft. They had some issues with CPU utilization and on one of their flight computers, and then a thruster algorithm failure that was happening like 6% of the time during simulations. And I got to fix those. And for both of those, I received the Pathways Achievement Award. And then, of course, the tours and the lectures there were incredible. So I got to see the moon rocks there in the top left, the Ares Center lab from all the Apollo missions. Um, so yeah, it was just an amazing experience. And so before we go to the next slide, I just want to say, remember that picture at the beginning of me in the helicopter at Kennedy? The goal was to get back there. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Awesome. So I have a transfer to Kennedy Space Center from Johnson, and I accepted a pathways position with the Center Delivered Services team at Kennedy, and which is they basically when there's a gap for a technological gap for a mission, they try to innovate and make some solution, whether it's for a tool for people to use or for the mission itself. They kind of do different things, software, computer, and electrical engineering. So that's I just thought that 3 years later, 3 years ago, I was standing there thinking, how could I get here, you know, uh, to work, and then 3 years later, I'll be down there working this summer. So I thought that was pretty incredible, and I just try to wrap that into something to show you guys. So, but I think that's it for my presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, and just to clarify, I think you've accepted or you're expected that there's a direct path from that summer gig to a full-time gig at NASA after you
Yes,
graduate.
sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. So yeah, the Pathways program, and so I'm basically filling a position for someone that just left on that team, and then once I graduate, spring 27, I'll be going down there full time. So
fantastic. So let's go on to Alex. Yeah, thanks so much, Noah. So Alex Newcomb just received her bachelor's in software in 2024. Now she's working on a PhD. We're super excited to have Alex here because she's a winner of the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program. So I'll brag on Alex. They give out 1,500 of these annually. They give out four to software engineers, and one is Alex, who's here with us tonight. So she's published a lot of research on those areas. I'm sure she's going to talk about it. But Alex, yeah, the floor is yours. Oh, and by the way, that means that not only did she win a big award, but they also paid for all of her grad school and give her a living stipend, which is also quite nice of the National Science Foundation. So, Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, my name's Alex. I am a PhD student that's focused specifically on software engineering. I did receive my BS in software engineering also at Embry-Riddle in 2024. So, I've been here for quite a few years now. As Dr. Watson mentioned, my PhD is fully funded by the National Science Foundation, and I have published research in the areas of mostly right now artificial intelligence and machine learning. That's the main focus of my PhD, along with the verification of safety critical software. I'm also very interested in commercial aviation and advanced air mobility, so some of my research focuses on that sector as well, and software engineering education as well. During my undergrad degree, I did complete 4 internships at Boeing. These were in flight deck engineering and simulation engineering. Most of them, 3 of them, were in simulation engineering. So that has been a big focus of mine as well. Next slide, please. So I actually started at Embry-Riddle back in 2020 as an aerospace engineering student. And I switched over to software engineering in my second year. And basically, as soon as I switched over to software engineering, I became involved in research. Very similar to Noah, actually. It kind of pulled me in, and I worked on that ever since, basically nonstop. I was very fortunate to actually have the opportunity to work on some funded research projects during my undergrad, which was a very, very unique and fun opportunity. So I basically got to get paid to do some cool stuff like modeling and simulation for drone workflows. This was a project that we worked on with the Air Force Research Lab. That was very cool because I got to learn and apply some of that modeling and simulation skills. And then also more recently, we've been applying some software project management ideas to academia in order to see how those industry skills can transfer to academia. So that one's a little bit more dry, but still very cool and funded as well. And then me, along with a few other graduate students, we were two-time finalists in the FAA Data Challenge. So we got to travel to Washington, D.C. and present our work there. That was really cool. And specifically during my undergrad, I published one journal article and two conference papers. That's quite a lot. And that it could only have been done because I got involved in research very early. And then throughout my undergrad journey in software engineering, I received mentorship from multiple faculty, including my advisor, who I'm still with. So I started working with him back in 2022, and I'm still there. So it's been a good time. Next slide, please. So that kind of brings me to the main point, like why come to Embry-Riddle? Why come to the electrical engineering and computer science program here? For me, it was really the opportunity to participate in research and also get experience I need to go to industry. So, the thing about our department that really helped me grow as an individual is that I could explore research, which I had no idea about aviation research or machine learning. I didn't really even know what it was before I came here. But I got to work on research while also going into industry and working on and doing internships with Boeing. So I got both of those experiences, and I did get my internships from Boeing through a partnership that the university has with Boeing. So that was also a unique opportunity. And as a result, I did develop a very close relationship with both faculty and PhD students. That is what actually ultimately led me to pursue my PhD. I mean, when I was a high schooler, I thought that I was just going to go straight to industry, get my 4 year degree, go to industry, work there for the rest of my career. But my journey really showed me that, oh, research is my path. And I could only discover that because Embry-Riddle involves undergrads in research, which is pretty unique at like large state schools. A lot of the time, it's only graduate students that get that opportunity. So do keep that in mind. And then I also really appreciated that we have a software engineering program because it separates software engineering from computer science a bit. So you can focus more on that high level architecture if you want, or you can go the computer science path. And as I mentioned, exploring both research and industry was a huge perk. Additionally, my experiences really did offer me many opportunities after undergrad. Like there were multiple paths I could choose from. I could have gone into industry, worked at Boeing. I did have an offer from them to stay there. But also my experiences led me to receive that highly competitive national award. So that was very exciting, and I could pursue my PhD with that. And as a result, I was encouraged to stay here and pursue research as a result, fully funded. So overall, it has been a really fun time. Hope you consider it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. So before I introduce our final panel, let's just remind everybody, please throw questions into the chat. These three have a lot of insight on things they've talked about here, but also other just random, they've been, like Alex said, she's been a student for a while. Noah's been a student. They know some of the things that even I have no idea about how the food is, right? They can tell you. So let's introduce Cameron real quick. So Cameron, working on his master's, actually finished your master's degree, right, in electrical engineering,
Yeah.
and also a PhD candidate. So he's from the electrical engineering side. I've enjoyed working with Cameron on a variety of projects I'm sure he'll talk about. So we'll let Cameron talk about a little bit about his experience.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Thank you for having me. Um, Cameron Martinez, yeah, so I decided to start with why did I choose Embry-Riddle? Because, I was where you guys were at one point. Why did I actually pick Embry-Riddle? The main one was was, like he said, I played baseball, so Embry-Riddle gave me an opportunity where I could, not compensate on one, I was able to do both athletics and engineering at a pretty high level. So I didn't have to kind of settle for anything. I was able to do both. But also, Embry-Riddle specialized in aerospace and engineering. I always was interested in those things. Also located in Daytona Beach. I'm from Central Florida, so it wasn't a far move. And the beach is awesome. Another thing I really liked was a smaller campus size. So, very focused academic environment. At Embry-Riddle, you are in a class of 20 students, maybe less. I'm in classes with like five sometimes. So I really like that kind of personal edge. At some universities, I just don't think you get that. Um, so at Embry-Riddle, kind of that individual environment was definitely one of the reasons I chose the school. So that's why I started. What actually happened though? So fall 2019, I started my bachelor's in electrical engineering. Joined Eagle Baseball, go Eagles. A few years in, I did a test engineering internship at Lockheed Martin. That was the summer of 2022, and the interesting thing about that internship was it went well, but I didn't really enjoy what I was doing, and kind of had a little identity crisis of sorts when I got back. As I'm doing electrical engineering, but is this all there is? Is this I kind of locked myself into this path? Uh, but that semester I took an electromagnetics course, and the professor kind of showed his lab, wireless devices and electromagnetics, undergraduate research. And I said, let me try this. Maybe it's something I'll enjoy. Maybe I'll figure something out about what I actually want to do. Definitely one of the best decisions I've made. Spring 2023, I graduated with my bachelor's, had a minor in applied mathematics. Started the next semester my master's in electrical engineering. Along the way, I did an NSF internship at Cyperio Research and Development in Orlando, basically additive manufacturing of electronics. And then very recently, fall 2024, I started my PhD in electrical engineering. So that's where I'm at now. Next slide. So what have I been able to do while I'm here? One of those is leading academic research. Some of my projects that I'm currently doing or have done in the past include a 3D printed millimeter wave phased array for harsh environments. I'm gonna throw a lot of big words out here. I definitely don't expect you guys to know them, but this is just an idea of the variety of things you can see. That one was an Army collaboration. Another recent one was printed conformal radio frequency interconnects, which was a NASA collaboration. Then any collaborations are funded. So that's a benefit. High performance antenna design for space environment. This was the first topic I did in my undergraduate. That actually led me to a conference paper that took me to Puerto Rico, which was a really cool experience as an undergrad. So my current research is on holographic metasurfaces for advanced communication systems. And another big aspect of what I'm doing is a nanosatellite mission and design for next generation space networks, which is an Air Force collaboration, but it's also a bunch of agencies involved there. That's a massive, massive project. And, ideally with that one, in a few years, we'll have something that's flying in space, which is really, really cool. Next slide, please. Another really cool part, we kind of talked about it, some of the speakers already, is these conferences and publications. This is what I think was one of the funner part is these publications, your name attached to this paper that's out there, anybody can see it. And the conferences are fun too because they can take you to some really cool places. So personally, I've published I think 10 plus, not personally, but I'm also a co-author on some of these um, numerous domains. I've attended multiple conferences. The first one was IEEE Radio and Wireless Week. That was in Puerto Rico. I was a student paper finalist for that one, so that was really cool. I've attended multiple rounds of the International Microwave Symposium, 2023, 2024, 2025. Every year I've managed the Embry-Riddle booth. You can see that in the uh, top left slide. That was a booth we had there. But mo in the recent 2025 year, I was a student design competition winner, so that was really cool. And then one of the more recent conferences was a small satellite conference in Salt Lake City, where me and some fellow colleagues shared and defended our satellite project that I just spoke about against a board of professionals. So we had a big review session there. Um, but this is just a kind of a handful of the things that I've done and that a lot of my colleagues have done is, these conferences, these publications, they're great networking, they're great meeting people, and it's just good to see new places sometimes. But definitely any questions about any of these conferences, any of these publications, any of these topics, eager to hear from you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. So I think at this point, before we do the question answer, Ms. Cobb's going to talk a little bit about how you can actually how can we get you to some of these conferences in the future?
Yes, I hope this has gotten you excited about possibly starting your own journey with Embry-Riddle. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that process. So the good news is if you are a high school senior right now, the application is already open for fall 2026. So you can do that at any time. It's on our website. We are not on the Common App. If you are a younger high school student, you have a little bit of time, but we will open the application typically this summer between your junior and senior year. And we start reviewing applications in September. We review them on a rolling basis and provide you decisions as we make them. So the earlier you get everything in, the earlier you'll hear back. So I definitely recommend an early application if possible. And what you actually need to apply, it's not too terrible, I promise. First of all, the application, you do have to make some decisions when you apply. You're going to apply to one campus. We have campuses in Florida, Arizona, and also online. You're going to apply directly to the degree program that you would like to study. And you're also going to let us know if you want to use your test scores. We are test optional, so you will either say yes or no, and we will require them or not based on what you respond. So you're going to get it started with that, and then you're going to send everything else separately. So what we will need is definitely the high school transcript. We want to see your academics, what you've been doing. We want to see especially your STEM classes. Need to be prepared for some math, so we'd like to see pre-calculus or trig at a minimum on your transcript. Test scores, mentioned them already. We are test optional, so if you would like to use them, you're definitely welcome to, but you don't have to. That's up to you. We're also happy to read essays, resumes, rec letters, anything additional that you would like to send, but we don't require it. So that is also up to you. But it is a really great opportunity to tell us more about you. We love to get to know who you are as a student. So once everything gets in that is required, we will, like I said, get you reviewed and get a decision out to you. And shortly following that, we do start a merit review process. So you don't have to do anything extra. You're automatically considered for merit scholarships based on your major, based on your academics, that sort of thing. If you're selected, you'll get a letter detailing the award that you've received and what you have to do to keep it. You're going to want to fill out the FAFSA form as well for need-based aid. And we do have a lot of scholarship opportunities externally and a few internally that you can apply to through the financial aid website. So definitely take a look at that. But hopefully, you're ready to get started with your application. We have a fee waiver code here for coming out today. So you can save $50 and apply for free by using the code here on the screen, webinar 26 on your application. It's on the payment page. There's a little box where you can put in a fee waiver code. So thank you very much for hanging out with us today. So we will give you that application for free.
Awesome. Okay, and yeah, the questions are rolling in, so we're gonna try and knock some of these out. I think one theme we're seeing here is, okay, I'm in high school. What do I need to do? What math? What science? What clubs? What sports? Where do I need, all that stuff, right? So can you talk a little bit about preparation in high school that helped you prepared, or even things that you didn't do in high school that were fine, that you were still able to get where you are today? So I'm opening the question up I can call you one at a time like we're in class if you want, but anyone who's ready can hop in.
I will say real quick that I think it is important to not feel a ton of pressure about high school because it was a long time for me. I don't know if I look it, but I'm a little older. I was in the military before I came to Embry-Riddle. But it had been several years since high school and several years since math, and I was able to get back up to speed once I started and did pre-calculus essentials here at the school, and then went into calculus 1 and 2 and so on and so forth. So I will say other speakers probably have more to add, but I will say don't feel too much pressure, I'd say.
Yeah, I can add on to that. I think like if I could go back and give myself some advice for what I should do to prepare, it would be to just explore as much as I can, like the different things that interested me. So I was really into commercial aviation, but I basically only explored that. And so when I came to Embry-Riddle and I started aerospace engineering, I realized that I didn't really like physics that much, and I was more interested in the systems engineering side. So you could save yourself a little bit of time if you just try out different clubs. Even something that you think that you aren't that interested in, like try it for a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe you're going to end up loving that. Whatever opportunities you have at your own high school, like take advantage of those. Don't just stick to like one thing necessarily. That you might realize that you have an interest somewhere else, and maybe another major might be a better fit for you.
Yeah, exactly what they said. I didn't know I was going to do electrical engineering until like a month before I started my degree. And honestly, I only picked it because it was one of the degrees that the university gave me the most money. So having kind of a loose idea of what you want to do is beneficial, but exactly bottlenecking yourself into one route, I think is actually sometimes a bad thing. So be open to, different options, different possibilities, take on things that would actually kind of scare you at first, not really your forte. That's okay. Try those things. Those have been the best decisions I've found I've made. And not knowing exactly what you want to do in high school and even in the first few years, year or two of your undergrad is perfectly fine, perfectly normal. Um, as an engineer, I know I like solving problems, but chemical engineering, electrical engineering, software, uh, that's something you'll find out, I think.
And just to add, like the first of all, if you're admitted into Embry-Riddle, then they've looked at your application, they've decided you've taken the math and science you need, right? So that's one piece, and the second piece I would say is like that first year or two is really designed so that you can get kind of a feel, like Alex said, right? If you find out you're I don't like this particular type of engineering, but this is another thing that might be a better fit. I think there's opportunity for that. So I see a question from Steve and Logan that I'm gonna actually send to Cam. So their question is balancing class and things outside of class. So their example is band, but obviously you played baseball. So what was that like?
Yeah, I had band in middle school too, so I got a little bit of that
Okay,
too.
okay. I didn't know all the
Alto
talents.
alto saxophone. Um, but it's definitely it can be a struggle sometimes. It's not always an easy thing, but it's basically time management. You have to kind of decide on things that really matter to you. For me, it was baseball and it was school. So and then there's time for other things too, but just you have to kind of be good with time management. And there's also a lot of opportunities at the school. The school will help you. I know as an athlete, there was tutoring sessions. There was hosted office hours and stuff that they want you to succeed. The school wants you to do the things you want to do. They don't want you to kind of fail. So it was never really a big kind of problem. Um, but there are some sacrifices sometimes, but it's all worth it, I think, in the end.
So another question kind of theme we're seeing here is on internships and exploring your major. Can you talk about, well, number one of the questions the students want a little more detail on this working with the Army and the Air Force thing. How did that happen, or what does that mean? And then number two, just opportunities to help you understand your major outside of the classroom in terms of some of these internships. How was that facilitated? Was it difficult? Was it comparable to peers at other schools, people you've talked to in terms of being able to get internship placements? If you could talk about kind of the internship experience, any of those areas, I think would be very interesting for everybody.
I guess I can go first on this one. I mentioned that I worked with the Air Force Research Lab. So for that one, my advisor specifically had a partnership with someone that they happened to get their PhD with that now worked at the Air Force Research Lab. So they applied for a contract with them in order to obtain funding for a project. So a lot of like in that sense, that research opportunity was because my advisor and our faculty had that network already built to work with the Air Force for research. In terms of internships, so I worked at Boeing for basically every summer of my undergrad, and Embry-Riddle made that process very smooth for me. I Boeing has a connection with Embry-Riddle, so they come on campus every year for about a week and basically like network, recruit students. Also, they do interviews like on the spot. If you're not ready for the internship, they tell you, here's what we're looking for to prepare for next year. So that helped a lot. I know some like other universities have this, but for Boeing specifically, they pick a set of universities that they go to because obviously they can't go to every single university in the country. So that is unique in that sense that a lot of the aerospace companies do have like a set connection with Embry-Riddle and they come at least once a year. Some of those aerospace suppliers and Boeing, for example.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on internships?
I will say on the for NASA pathways, when I got to Johnson Space Center, I stood up and said, "Hey, I'm from Embry-Riddle. My name is Noah Pointer." And then another guy was like, "Hey, I'm from Embry-Riddle too." And then when we got to our office, we were just talking, and Embry-Riddle came out of our mouths. We were talking about, oh, it's so excited. We're on the same project, same school, and everything. And then people were coming out of their cubicles, like, oh yeah, I went to school there, and it was like exciting to see. And that was in flight operations when I first got there. And so yeah, just to speak to that, and then just like like Alex was saying, just like the network industry ties that Embry-Riddle has is also one of the reasons I chose the school. The super high employment rate upon graduation and then plus those industry connections to aerospace companies and NASA. So, I've seen that with my own experience as well. That's true. So,
So I'll kind of pivot a little bit. A couple questions because you all got involved in research, and so two questions here. Is there like a database you search? How does students get involved in research? You kind of told your story, but maybe some other thoughts. One student asked, "Are there actually enough research opportunities for students on campus, or is it like a limited thing?" And then another student asked, "Do you work with other students as well, or is it to work with other students on projects?" So yeah, interested in your thoughts on those kind of that theme of questions, setting up, getting involved in research and that like. So we'll start with Cameron specifically, so because otherwise, and specifically when they talk about working with other students, I think it might be interesting if you mention working with. I know you have experience working with students in other degrees from Comet. Maybe you could
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So yes, we work with other students all the time, at least in my experience. I have my lab I have a desk right by, 10 other people. We're there every day. So there's definitely a sense of community there. And that's just within my lab. Like Dr. Watson said, one of my projects is a nano satellite mission that I'm chief engineer on. So if you're building a satellite, you don't just want electrical engineers. You don't just want software engineers. You need all the engineers pretty much. So that is kind of a unique thing that I've done is these interdisciplinary kind of thing is merging all these groups into one. Uh, it's important and it can be difficult sometimes. Um, but it's definitely, yes, we are working with other people all the time.
Maybe Noah, you can talk a little with the question
yeah.
about is this just something like do we pick the only three students who are involved in research and put them on the webinar? Maybe you can talk about like maybe the scale of Discovery Day. Would be something that might be of
Oh
interest.
yes, this yeah, Discovery Day is awesome. See, I can I'll speak again on like how I got started, and then once I got into it, I realized how many students were doing research and how much different types of work were being done at the school. So I was in a class, and my professor, I was in a software class, and my professor said, "Who's interested in research?" I raised my hand, and then he gave me Dr. Watson's info. I met with Dr. Watson, got integrated in the lab, like all this I mentioned earlier. Once I got in there, I met all these other people who were doing research, and then I started noticing like because it was freshman year, so I wasn't really thinking about it. But I noticed flyers and saying, "Hey, we need students who want to hop on research, for aerospace, for CubeSats, for biologically inspired design stuff." Um, so seeing students that I'm in class with presenting their research at these student events like the Discovery Day and Research Symposium. There's just dozens and dozens of research papers in this, lined in this room with students presenting their work, and a lot of them are undergraduate students and people that I've got to know. And it's just a ton of opportunities there. I'd say there's really more opportunity than student because there's a ton of work to be done and a lot of really good stuff going on. So.
Hey, Alex, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll echo that. There's definitely, you can hear me okay, right? Yeah. There's definitely more opportunities for research than there are students that are currently filling them. At least in my lab, we have students from all different like experiences. We have freshmen all the way through PhD students, and there's still empty seats. There's plenty of space for it. And then in like my lab, all of the like more junior researchers get paired up with the PhD student and we teach them and we get them really involved in the different projects. And if they are learning and they're showing promise, they can also get put onto a funded project as well. So I wouldn't worry, there's definitely not a set limit. It's more about um, like speaking to a professor that you're interested in, speaking to even a student that you know that does research, they'll get you involved for sure. And they'll point you to whichever faculty actually align with what your research interests are, because there's plenty of faculty and they all have different projects that they're working on, and they'll be happy to have you.
Yeah, so I pulled the numbers. So we do a twice a year we do a research kind of symposium display poster display. And so last year we had 240 posters with 600 presenters, student presenters present. And that's just the ones who are doing research who wanted to present. And I guarantee there are many that were involved in research that weren't. Um, so some of these questions we talk a lot about engineering. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the questions are what's it like on campus? Somebody wants to know, what's the weather like? Oh, by the way, Cody, good. If we use acronyms that we don't define, yeah, thank you for asking. BS means bachelor's. That's an undergraduate degree. MS is a master's degree, and then PhD is a doctorate. So that's the doctorate degree. Anyways, life on campus. First of all, things that aren't research or school related. Weather, yeah, just kind of like a feel for what it was like to be a student on campus. Alex, you're smiling, so we'll pick on you first.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm at the Daytona campus. I think we all are, right? Yeah, we're in the Daytona campus, and the weather is, I honestly like it a lot because the times that it's more unbearable is the summer, and we don't have classes in the summer, so that works out really well. Otherwise, it's pretty comfortable throughout the rest of the year, I would say. I think honestly, my undergrad experience at Embry-Riddle was some of the most fun times I've had in my life, I think. I mean, right now is still fun too, but now I'm more on like the work grind. During undergrad, I was really involved in like many different clubs and also research in classes, and I thought that it was really fun how I could just join a new club and learn something new. So I was in like the Student Government Association and I served on like the student court and received like a mini scholarship for that throughout my undergrad. So totally unrelated to research, but just for fun. And the university does make it really easy to like explore these different things. There's a club fair at the beginning of each semester, and some of these clubs actually do partake in a little bit of research as well, or they like build like little robots or rockets if you're into that too. There's airplanes. A lot of them really have nothing to do with the technical stuff. Like when I joined the Student Government Association, that was very non-technical related, so that was a good experience to have as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
go ahead,
also
Noah.
add, I mean, I love living here by the coast. It's nice. There's a ton of stuff to do. You're super close to, Orlando if you want to go to parks. You're an hour from Kennedy Space Center if you want to go see launches. The beach is awesome, the lighthouse. There's a ton of different places you can explore. The campus itself is nice. It's like Cameron was saying earlier, it's not a huge campus. It's easy to navigate and everything's kind of laid out for you. And like Alex was saying, there's a ton of fun stuff to do. So like the clubs come out, they put all their tents up, and you can go and learn about anything you'd ever could imagine. I mean, there's more stuff than I could ever do that I want to do. Every year I see them, and I'm like, I wish I could do that, but I'm already so busy. But and then they have speakers that come to the campus from all different backgrounds, and there's a lot of great stuff to do, and then sports as well. There's always stuff to do here. It's a lot of fun, honestly. So
Give my 2 cents about the campus. The campus is
Yeah.
fantastic, especially recently. We've had a lot of additions. A brand new gym just built, awesome. Multiple new dorms built that are great. Good food options. Everything's extremely walkable, so having a car isn't super critical, especially for the first 2 years you're required to live on campus. I think that was mentioned in the chat. Um, but yeah, really, really good campus. Everything's quite new. They're expanding like crazy. I feel like every year there's a new building being built. Um, Another really cool part is that we live right on the Daytona airstrip, so we get a lot of like plane activity. Which, if that's your kind of thing, that's really interesting. Sometimes we'll have like flyovers, just randomly. I've seen the Goodyear blimp a few times, so I think that's kind of cool too. If especially if you're that's your kind of thing.
Nice. So a couple questions actually, and this will be for Noah and Alex, have asked about the details of the software engineering computer science curriculum. So they've kind of asked questions, what coding language, or just maybe if you could provide a little more detail about some of the things that you study in that program, or what that, for maybe someone's not familiar with software engineering. Yeah, well, maybe you could describe a little bit more of those programs.
Yeah, I could go first just really quickly. So for software engineering, it's more focused. Software engineering is like a sub branch of systems engineering, but applied to software systems. So you will learn like programming and you'll take programming courses, but you'll also, unlike like the CS program, you'll be taking like software analysis and design. You'll be taking quality assurance and then like basically, those courses that are related to high level software architecture design. And if that's your thing, that's great too. The CS program focuses a lot more on like the programming side, the data structures, algorithms, databases, which is also really cool. So you get that separation so you can go more in depth on either side. I really liked the reason I switched to software engineering is because I liked systems. So I really liked those analysis and design classes the most. The classes that didn't have programming in them, I found it really interesting to like analyze like system requirements, which is just like what does somebody want this software system to do, and how do we actually turn that into something that becomes code? You'll learn how to do that if you go into software engineering. Noah, do you want to add on to that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head, the distinguishing between the software and computer science. And I'm actually taking that analysis and design class right now, and I love it. It's a lot of fun because it's we're talking about we're learning. So it's engineering, right? And you have to follow engineering process. But instead of getting so much into the code, you're considering things like this application, if we want to, people are going to be using it for 10, 20 years. How do you make it maintainable? Or how do you make it, different things you consider instead of just the code itself. Um, and so you take, software engineering, you take your core engineering classes, so math and physics. You take some computer engineering classes as well. So from my experience, so second semester junior, I've gotten a very well-rounded education, I think, and to where like I know how the software interacts with hardware. And I've gotten to touch different languages, over time, while also the main focus being that like engineering process, design process. Um, so that's been my experience. It's been good though.
Excellent. So Alex, one other question goes back to your specific story. So you changed your degrees. How hard was that? Yes, because that's well, yeah. How hard was that?
What I really liked is that it wasn't very hard. I know some universities, when I was a high schooler, I was really looking into how difficult it was to change majors. So like one school I was looking into, it was basically very hard and you weren't actually guaranteed to get the major that you wanted when you applied for engineering. It was like a first come, first serve based off of your first year GPA, for example. But I had no issues switching, so I switched relatively late, like basically at the end of my sophomore year. I mean, you could switch later than that, but a lot of times people will just continue on at that point. And it was not very difficult. My advisor worked with me very closely and we like switched my course load. I didn't have to like reapply for anything. Like administratively, it was a very easy change. And then I just started taking those new classes. I did have to stay, my bachelor's took an extra semester because of that, but it was definitely worth it. So it was a 4.5 years instead of four. But the actual, like if I had switched maybe a semester earlier, or I wouldn't have had to stay that extra semester, the switch itself was pretty smooth.
Nice. Um, okay, I think we're coming up on time, so we'll have a few more questions here. Um, and I had a good one, and then I
I,
lost
I,
it.
hey,
Oh, go
Dr.
ahead, Noah.
Watson,
Yeah.
I will say too real quick, and maybe Crystal could confirm this, but I remember when I started 3 years ago, there was also a still exploring engineering option where you can come on and you start your core classes, but you don't dedicate it to software or electrical or you have a I can't remember how long it is, but I think it's your first year, or maybe up to 60 credits. I can't remember exactly, but I know there's an option where you start and you're getting your core classes done as you kind of figure out, like Cameron was saying earlier about like figuring out what you want to do, kind of gives you some time to do that. So
Yeah, we do still have the still exploring engineering option available. It is like the first year of freshman engineering classes. And there's some slight differences between things like aerospace and electrical or whatever, but there's also a lot of similarities as well. So it kind of gives you some flexibility if you want to change your mind.
Yeah. And I think from the faculty side, what I'll say is we're even trying to be even more intentional about it. For example, if you start in aerospace and you change your mind within the first, I think it's almost 2 years, you lose no credits because it's very similar to systems engineering. So we're also, and the Embry-Riddle cares about the student experience. They're actually trying to be intentional to help support, we want to get you where you want to go, right? Not just through any particular program. So some questions I'm seeing are coming up with about the military connection. So that's a whole separate conversation. But I will say is you don't have to be in the military to go to Embry-Riddle. You don't have to go to the military after you leave Embry-Riddle. You can if you want to. You can explore those veterans program, the veterans, excuse me, the ROTC programs give you an opportunity to commission, which we have a very large ROTC community here. Um, and then the question we saw a question also about international students and research. As long as you're not involved in any sort of Department of Defense research or anything that might have export controls, then you'll be fine. And maybe Noah or Alex or Cam, have you worked with international students in your research?
Yeah, definitely. Some opportunities might be closed off. Some require U.S. citizenship, but there's a wide array of ones that don't, and my lab has a large amount of international students.
One of the PhD students I work with is international, and they have been able to do basically everything. There was one project that required US citizenship, but it wasn't required for our work. It was kind of just a for fun thing. So it doesn't close off too many doors, mostly just those like Department of Defense type projects.
yeah, I concur and agree with Alex and Cameron on that. We have a ton of awesome international students in our lab, and there's only a few things rarely that they can't do, but they can. I mean, they pretty much do everything when it comes to the Department of Defense and certain things like that. So it's the same experience.
So I'm not actually not aware of the answer to this question. Did any of you do any of the Embry-Riddle study abroad? Alex, okay, can you talk briefly about that, and then I'm gonna ask each of you for one closing piece of advice to close it out. So Alex, oh yeah, study abroad.
Yeah, I did a study abroad over winter break in Dubai, and I basically did like one of my electives there, and it was really fun and very it was not a very difficult experience. It basically just costed the same amount as that credit would have costed anyway. So I just got to do it while in Dubai. So there are opportunities there. If you come here, you'll see study abroad posters like everywhere each semester. Whenever there's an opportunity, they're kind of all around.
Yeah, they make it very easy for the faculty to decide they want to take the show on the road and take some students with them to different countries. So it's something I haven't done yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to. All right, so our closing question here. And before I ask the question, put a couple things in the chat to keep the conversation going. Obviously, you're welcome to email us. You're welcome to email admissions. We have a LinkedIn page for our department that's very active, so you can click on that and you can follow there and see lots of different examples of other students or even these students and some awesome things they've done. Preview day is something that comes up in I think in May, but I put the link there for information about that. So we have preview day and open house every year, a chance to come on campus, interact with students. And so I would definitely encourage you to take a look at those. But kind of closing question here for Cameron, Alex, and Noah. Closing kind of words of wisdom, advice, or perspective, or just something you want to say. It doesn't have to be that profound. So much pressure.
My piece would definitely be to just be open to any opportunity for the most part. put yourself in situations you wouldn't normally. And for me personally, that's been the most rewarding experiences.
I guess I could say, like, for the remainder of your high school and also your first few years of college, just fill your schedule, you know. Don't sit in your room all day long. Fill it with fun things, but also like classes and clubs. So, like, I did some fun clubs and had some time left over for things like book club, but also worked on my technical clubs and projects. So, fill your time, don't just stay in your room all day long, and then you'll get to experience and like explore your interests as much as you can.
Yeah, thinking back to when I was trying to make the decision to where what school I wanted to go to, and I came to this school, I would say don't be discouraged by anything we're saying as far as software or research, all these things. I think that there are so many opportunities at the school and in our department that I think that there's a fit for everyone who's interested in this type of stuff, and there's a place for you to kind of navigate initially to figure out what your interests are because you don't know what you haven't experienced yet. And I think that's my experience at least. I did not know about research or software as much until I started here, and then I kind of started to you know develop interest as I went along. So I'd say don't be afraid to show up because that's always the hardest part. So
Yeah. Fantastic. I think that's where we'll end it tonight. So we thank everybody for the very active questions that were coming in the chat and on the Q&A. If you still have more questions, like I said, reach out to admissions. Come to Daytona Beach. Come up to the third floor of Lehman, and we'd be happy to see you and talk more about what's going on at Embry-Riddle. But thank you so much, and everybody have a great night.